I will stand upon your shoulders and I feel a little stronger. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. When I lose sight of the horizon, you lift me up, my world is brightened. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. I felt the ground shaking under me. I saw the sky falling down on me. I was scared cause I felt alone. I was scared cause I didn't know. I broke my wings and I couldn't fly. I lost my way, I was going blind. You gave me light when I couldn't see. You gave me words when I couldn't speak. And you said, you are not alone. I'll be your rock, I'll be your shelter. I will stand upon your shoulders and I feel a little stronger. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. When I lose sight of the horizon, you lift me up, my world is brightened. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. I see you there and you're feeling low. I see you stressed about tomorrow. Trying to fight, but there's no way out. How to believe when you're filled with doubt. But I say, you are not alone. I'll be your rock, I'll be your shelter. Oh, you are not alone. We're all in this together. So you can stand upon the shoulder. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. If you lose sight of the horizon, I'll lift you up, your world is brightened. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. I'm standing on your shoulders. I'm saying thank you. I'm saying thank you. I will stand upon your shoulders and I feel a little stronger. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. When I lose sight of the horizon, you lift me up, my world is brightened. You gave me little hope and I say thank you. I felt the ground shaking under me. I saw the sky falling down on me. I was scared cause I felt alone. I was scared cause I didn't know. I broke my wings and I couldn't fly. I lost my way, I was going blind. You gave me light when I couldn't see. You gave me words when I couldn't speak. And you said, you are not alone. I'll be your rock, I'll be your shelter.
Hi, I'm Gary Zlotnick, Chairman and CEO of ZLC Financial, and what an honor it is for ZLC to be supporting Temple Sholom's event tonight. ZLC is a community player. We believe businesses can make a positive impact in their community, and that is why we consistently host and participate in philanthropic and charitable initiatives throughout Vancouver, such as this one. We are a proud sponsor of Journeys, and we are so thankful for all of the engaging programming work that Temple Sholom does for our entire congregation. Hope everyone has a good evening and enjoys this event. Thank you.
Shavua Tov and good evening. I'm Rabbi Dan Moskowitz. I think many of you know that. I want to invite and thank all of those that are joining us online to feel present here also. We appreciate all of you that were able to be here in person, and we appreciate all of you that have joined us online and everyone that made this event possible. Just a couple of quick announcements, and I feel very conscious of doing this in front of my medical advisory team. But we'll ask you, please, unless you're up here speaking, to keep your masks over your nose and mouth, to keep them on also if you move around the building, socializing with others. The washrooms, of course, as you know, I think are in the back. I know they're in the back. I think you know that. This is a very special evening for us. An opportunity to partner with the Parrott Center in bringing the world-renowned Amit Peled here to perform his incredible cello, and for us to be transported from all of the tsuris of the world today, and there is a lot of tsuris, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, in our world today, into a different place, an ethereal place, a place of holiness, a place where time stops. And it's also an opportunity for us to recognize two very special people in the life of this congregation, in the life of this city and of our province, and in my life personally. And that's to give a very well-deserved award of Pikuach Nefesh, an award for saving human life, to Drs. Patty Daly and Dr. Grafstein, who love each other so much they're married, and to welcome their dear friend and colleague, Dr. Rika Gustafson, who's going to present that award, and we'll talk more about that and give you a proper introduction in a moment. But as a way of making a havdalah, of making a separation, normally we would say bein kodesh l'chol, between the holiness of Shabbat and the ordinariness of the rest of the week. But this is really bein kodesh l'kodesh, between the holiness of Shabbat and the holiness, the sanctity of this moment, in this sacred place that which many of us have not been able to return to for some time. This is one of the largest crowds we've had, I think, since my son's bar mitzvah. And so to do that, it's my pleasure to invite Rabbi Carrie Brown and Cantor Shani Cohen to join on the bima to lead us in Havdalah.
So as we prepare to bid farewell to Shabbat, we are going to allow all of our senses to carry a little bit of that sweetness and that holiness in the week to come. We hope that it will sustain us as we re-enter into the world around us. And during Havdalah, we use lots of our different senses, our sense of smell with the spices and taste with the wine and sight with the flame. We're excited that our sense of hearing, of listening to beautiful music tonight will also help us to make that transformation. So we invite you to join with us.
Baruch atah
Shavua Tov, 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 Shavua Tov. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Shavua Tov.
I'm Ezra Shankin, the Chief Executive Officer of the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver. I wish that I could be with you in person tonight, but I'm unable to because I am actually in Israel for the first time in 2 years, visiting our partnership region in the north. You know, this whole pandemic has been a journey for so many of us. My journey as a leader going through the pandemic was made infinitely easier because of Patty Daly's support day in and day out. She was always on the other end of the phone as we were navigating this crisis together. I want to say how privileged we are to have her and her amazing husband as healthcare heroes and a part of our community. Temple Sholom is an extraordinarily important institution in our community, and they are doing day in and day out amazing programs that are bringing people together. I myself am privileged to be a member of Temple Sholom. So tonight we celebrate together. And on behalf of the Jewish community and the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver, I want to thank you all for coming tonight and supporting Temple Sholom, and once again wish a mazel tov to Eric Grafstein and Dr. Patty Daly for all that they do in receiving the Pikuach Nefesh Award. Have a great evening.
So, the Pikuach Nefesh Award. The Jewish value of Pikuach Nefesh is maybe one of those things that all that had the opportunity to go to Hebrew school remember from Hebrew school. We remember that teaching that to save a life is to save the entire world. It's not a teaching that's unique or distinct to Judaism. In fact, in my work with interfaith organizations and clergy, I have found it present in almost every religion in one form or another. It's one, though, that is particularly important within Judaism. Because as we see the world, we see it through the lens of human beings being created b'tselem Elohim, being created in the image of God. And so when we save a human life, when we do all that we can to save a life, we are saving an extension of God in the world. And it's not only that life, of course, that we're saving, but we are saving the lives of all of those through the rippling effects of connection that are connected to that human life, connected to that person. We have learned personally how connected and interconnected we are during this pandemic. And I have personally appreciated the connection that we have had to our public health officers, all of them that have been so helpful, and to Dr. Patty Daly and Dr. Eric Grafstein. I have Patty's cell phone number, and I have texted her frequently, every time apologizing for doing so. And every time you have responded, I don't know where you find the time to do it. You have been, as Ezra has said, not only a resource to our congregation, but to the entire Jewish community and far beyond. You and Eric, I know, have been a resource to the entire province. And Eric, I remember standing with you at a Brit Milah, maybe days before the whole sort of world shut down and the pandemic was revealed, and I was asking you about this, and your words were so calming. You didn't say that it wasn't going to be a big deal, but you did say that we would get through it. You had confidence in the colleagues that you had confidence in the ways that we could control the spread of the disease, of the virus. And I carried that, and still to this day carry that with me, and have shared it with our congregation for the last 2 years. And it's truly a pleasure tonight to introduce the two of you, to invite your dear friend, Dr. Rika Grafstein. Rika is a public health physician, one of the finest in BC, and has been a friend of Patty and Eric for nearly 20 years. Rika is a refugee from communist Hungary, having left at the age of 12 years old with her parents and older sister. She still has extended family in the region. Rika discovered that her mother's family was Jewish, a family secret that had been hidden from her when her mother was alive. And with this discovery, Eric and Patty have included Rika, her husband Paul, who's here with her, their 3 children, Joseph, Lucas, and Anna, in the daily Grafstein Passover celebrations. And Daniel Grafstein Daly, is it Grafstein Daly? Daly Grafstein? Daniel's here. I like your first name best of all. Included them in their Passover celebrations each year. As war rages in the historic Pale of Jewish settlement, our hearts and prayers are joined with yours for the safety of your extended family, all families in danger, and hopefully a peaceful end to this conflict. Rika and Patty, they have worked together at Vancouver Coastal Health as medical officers for many years before Rika assumed her current position as the leader of the BC Centre for Disease Control. And during this time, she has also had the opportunity to work with Eric, particularly on a very successful project called Stop HIV, implementing HIV testing and follow-up in hospital emergency departments and primary care offices throughout Vancouver, which has resulted, thankfully, in a sustained decline in the spread of HIV in Vancouver and throughout BC. Rika's work for our province during this pandemic and her deep friendship with Patty and Eric make her the perfect choice to introduce these incredible mitzvah heroes and to share with you why they are so deserving of this Pikuach Nefesh Award. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rika Gustafson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure and honor to join you in celebrating Dr. Patty Daly and Dr. Eric Grafstein as recipients of this award, which was developed to honor healthcare heroes who've been saving lives throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Patty Daly, as you know, a physician and a public health specialist, works as the Vice President and Chief Medical Health Officer for Vancouver Coastal Health. What's behind that lofty title is the best public health physician and leader in Canada. She brings expertise, conviction, rigor, and a relentlessly analytical mind to the public health issues that matter. If a public health issue does matter, if taking action can save lives, Dr. Daly is at the forefront. Whether it's addressing the overdose crisis or leading a thoughtful response to the COVID-19 pandemic that's based on what is right, not what is popular, Dr. Daly takes action and informs and empowers others to do the same. She can speak with knowledge and conviction because she's actually doing the work. Dr. Daly personally visited the first people diagnosed with COVID-19 in British Columbia, well before we had vaccines and all the information we now have to prevent transmission. She built a team who followed up tens of thousands of people with COVID-19 and made sure that if people needed care or if they needed to isolate, they were supported to do so, whether they were young or old, rich or poor, lived in a mansion or didn't have a home. Her team was the first to get vaccines and treatments out to people in British Columbia. In a pandemic, vaccines do not sit in a fridge for 1 extra hour if Dr. Daly has anything to do with it. She was there every day with her team, reviewing every case, every outbreak, each loss of life, building firsthand knowledge about what interventions actually help, which ones are not helpful, and which ones could be doing harm. She combines that first-hand experience and critical thinking with a unique ability to synthesize and communicate information that is clear and relevant and helps communities navigate a pandemic during very uncertain times. Dr. Eric Grafstein, a specialist physician in emergency medicine, practiced for many years at St. Paul's Hospital, caring for people who face some of the greatest medical, social, and economic challenges in our region. As the regional head of the Department of Emergency Medicine at Vancouver Coastal Health and Providence Healthcare, he oversees the provision of emergency medicine care from Bella Bella to Squamish to Vancouver to Richmond. He actually spent much of his career delivering both delivering care and innovating and improving how care is delivered. His work in developing and implementing electronic medical records and harnessing the power of emergency room data have been critical for monitoring how pandemic affected all aspects of care. And in fact, this morning, he launched the electronic medical record at Children's Hospital. Fortunately, it's close by, so you can make it here. Early in the pandemic, when suddenly the number of patients who needed emergency care assessment and care increased manyfold, new ways of assessing and advising patients needed to be developed right away. It is in these fast-moving situations where errors are not only possible, but actually likely. But Dr. Grafstein brought his level-headed leadership and clinical expertise to make sure that despite the panic and the urgency, the care people received, whether they received it on a computer or through a phone or in person, was inevitably excellent clinical care. Of course, emergency physicians didn't get to go home during the pandemic, and as an emergency physician, Dr. Grafstein continued to provide direct care to patients throughout the pandemic, in person, when information was scarce, equipment was limited, and we didn't know if or when a vaccine would arrive. Time and time again, I've had the chance to see Dr. Grafstein lead through credibility as a clinician who's always calm and humble and practical, and as a leader, someone who only asks others to do what he is prepared to do himself. You've probably deduced by now that I greatly admire Dr. Daly and Dr. Grafstein as physicians. I do. But I also admire Eric and Patty as people, as a couple, and as parents. You may or may not know that they met in medical school and have now been married for 32 years. Their warmth and their dedication to family comes through in absolutely everything they do. They have raised 3 sons who are bright and successful, and most importantly, genuinely good people. Daniel is here today. As individuals, they're actually very different, but they complement each other beautifully and sometimes hilariously. While Patty can't help but be the very first in line for every single flight, Eric calmly contemplates whether it was actually this flight for which he bought the ticket. It is their humanity, their humor, and their intellectual curiosity that make them such outstanding physicians, valued colleagues, and cherished friends. Finally, I'd like to thank you for developing this award and taking the opportunity to recognize 2 such deserving people. The difference that Dr. Daly and Dr. Grafstein have made during the pandemic is truly remarkable. And they have indeed saved lives. But what they have done during the past 2 years has been far from easy. The stakes have been high, the pressure relentless, and the thank yous not nearly enough. As a community, we owe them a great deal of gratitude, and I'm so glad that they're being recognized today. So thank you, and congratulations, Patty and Eric.
And so it's now my pleasure to invite Drs. Daly and Dr. Grafstein to join me here on the bima to present them with this award. I should say these awards. We're going to take a picture in a minute. And to just share with you a bit of what this award says. Can I borrow it for a second? I promise to give it back, Patty. We've chosen for both of you an acknowledgement of the truly sacred nature of the work that you do, to have a paper cut made of Maimonides' prayer for the doctor, prayer for the physician. It reads in part as the prayer that the doctor would say, God above, before I begin my holy work, healing your creation, I lay my plea before you, that you will grant me the strength of spirit and the vast energy to do my work with faith, and that the aspiration to accumulate wealth will not blind my eyes from seeing one who is suffering, one who comes for my advice, from seeing one who, as a human being, rich or poor, friend or foe, the good and the evil person. In his sorrowful moment, reveal to me only the human being in him. My love for the learning of medicine should only strengthen my spirit. Only the truth shall be the light before my feet, for any weakness in my work might bring about death and illness to your creation. I beg you, O Lord, please, be compassionate and gracious, O God. Strengthen and focus my body and my soul, and plant within me a spirit that is whole. And it says the Temple Sholom Pikuach Nefesh Award presented to Drs. Patty Daly and Dr. Eric Grafstein with deep appreciation and respect for honoring in your sacred work the Jewish imperative to safeguard and protect human life. And we're going to take a quick picture. Ladies and gentlemen, Doctors Patty Daly and Eric Grafstein.
Thank you so very much. I'm very humbled by this award. I'm still hearing the words of my friend and colleague, Dr. Ray Augustus, and thank you so much. Thank you to Rabbi Dan. Thank you to the congregation and everyone watching. It's an incredible honor to receive this award, especially because often people think that Eric is the real doctor in the family, so I greatly appreciate, as a public health doctor, that you've acknowledged that I too do work that might save lives, not just the emergency physicians, so thank you for that. For the last 2 years, I have been living and breathing and dreaming nothing but the pandemic, and the two people that I've spent most time doing that with have been Dr. Eric Grafstein and Dr. Ray Augustus, and so I'm very pleased that they're here tonight with me as I receive this award. I'm hoping that after tonight that I'll be dreaming about cello music or something other than the pandemic. There's really only two brief things I want to say. The first is that I want to thank all of you and all the congregation for everything that you have done and that you have sacrificed over the last 2 years. And to tell you that I have been so proud to be a part of the Jewish community, a community that first and foremost believes in science, where people treat one another with dignity and respect at all times, and a community that celebrates the joys of life, no matter what the challenges. That has been so important and has given me such strength over the last 2 years. And the second thing I want to say is, and this is my good news for the night, the Omicron wave is behind us in Vancouver. We're nearly out of this. And I will tell you a little secret. Within a matter of weeks, you will not be needing to wear these masks anymore, in large part thanks to Dr. Gustafson, and we will be lifting all the public health orders that are currently in place. And because we're so highly vaccinated and because we've learned so much, and because of Eric, who's been working to get antiviral medications distributed to people who will need them, we will be able to go back to living healthy, happy lives. But we will have to recover from what's happened over the last 2 years. And here's where I offer my apology as a public health official for some of the measures that we put in place that we know caused harm. And in particular, they caused harm to the people who are at the lowest risk of severe COVID-19, our children and our youth. So I ask the congregation as we go forward to recover from the pandemic to work with us, to work with Eric and myself and all of our public health staff to lift up our children and youth going forward so that we can go back to living the happy, healthy lives that we so cherish. And I'm looking forward to tonight and looking forward to dreaming of cello music. And I'll turn it over to Eric.
Thank you again to everyone for this lovely honor. I too am quite humbled and touched by the considerate gesture. I should have gone first. It's always bad to follow Patty in a speaking engagement. That's never a good plan. For many of us in healthcare, the last 2 years have been like a passage from a Dickens novel, A Tale of Two Cities, one of my favorite books, and it starts like this. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was a season of light, it was a season of darkness. We talk about the darkness a lot in healthcare, the protesters, the anti-vaxxers, the zero COVID believers. I'm just going to take a second to talk about the light. In my life, that is my loving wife and partner, Patty. And as you've heard, she's among the most courageous and fearless people that I know. She is principled and she is brilliant. More people throughout the pandemic should have listened to her. It took me like 30 years to figure that out. And I kind of have a blind spot around the dishwasher loading thing, but with all the weight of the world literally on her shoulders, she was still able to support myself and our children through this hard time. My children and their partners, Daniel and Brianne, Ben and Honor, Matthew and Alexia, managed to not only survive during the pandemic, but thrive. And as you all know, you're only as happy as your least happy child. Throughout all this, we've managed to get together regularly, and they've been a great source of joy and comfort to us. And you, the members of Temple Sholom, and Patty and I didn't share speeches, but I'm going to parrot a lot of what she said. I so appreciate that you are a group that looked to science for guidance during the pandemic and followed the advice. You remain steadfast and resolute in your commitment to sound infection control practices, to getting vaccinated, and really looking out for one another. That has been tremendous for us. We have felt your support and gained strength through it all. I am so proud to be a member of this congregation. And finally, I want to thank Temple Sholom community for their generosity in raising funds for the St. Paul's Hospital Emergency Department. This ultrasound machine that you purchased makes finding veins replacing the intravenous much easier and less painful. The gift will have huge impact on all patients, but especially those really vulnerable ones, the injection drug-using population. These are some of the most vulnerable patients we see. They have extremely difficult veins to cannulate, and this device will be a great boon to them. And while ultrasound technology in general is not new, training nurses to use this tool will be a first in the province. And so thank you very much again, and thank you for the award. Very grateful.
That's some of the best news. Wow. We got to give you another award just for that. Thank you both. And I did want to mention, and Eric did in his talk, how proud we are to have been able to partner not just with the members of Temple Sholom, but contributions came in from across the Jewish community to support the acquiring of that device for St. Paul's, for the emergency room, for the medical services that they provide. And it gives us and fills us with a great sense of shlichut, of sacred purpose, to know that our tzedakah will be helping those most in need. So thank you for letting us do that mitzvah. And so now we turn to the entertainment portion of our evening, and entertainment is really an understatement. It's not sufficient enough. I began my remarks by talking about this sacred place and this sacred time, and how music can elevate and can transport us. And I was here during the sound check, I can tell you, even though I think they thought I was the sound tech, because I was running around setting up cameras and microphones. I'm actually one of the rabbis. But nowadays, that's almost an indistinguishable role between sound tech and rabbi. But I can tell you that we need this. We need this music. We need the place that your journey will take us on. And so it's my pleasure to introduce to you Amit Peled and Noreen Polera, because they will take us on yet another journey. To welcome them to Journeys with My Jewishness. This powerful and compelling program follows Amit's personal musical and spiritual journey, from his childhood growing up in a small kibbutz in Israel and listening to his mother singing the traditional tune Eli, Eli, to playing Max Bruch's Kol Nidre as a young cellist and personally connecting with the Yom Kippur message. Amit explores the ups and downs of life and the desire to balance tradition, identity, and self-expression. It's my pleasure to welcome these two remarkable artists to our congregation to take us on a journey of the mind, of the body, of the spirit, and the soul.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah. It's wonderful to be here. Toda Rabba. And Rabbi, I did not miss you by anything. I saw the kippah. I know everything. My 3 kids go to a Jewish day school. I know the drill. Rabbis also take care of cameras. I know that. It's great to be here. This is the first time for me here in Vancouver. I wanted to share before we start that I've been playing in Seattle for many, many years, almost twice a year. And always when I land at the airport, if I rent a car, I go on Highway 5 and I see this big sign, Vancouver, go straight. And during festivals, when I play with people from Seattle, they always say, oh, you have to go to Vancouver. The food in Vancouver. So finally I made it here. And this morning I gave a masterclass at UBC. And tomorrow Noreen and I are playing for the Chamber Music Society here. And I'm really delighted that we could sort of squeeze in this performance, because this performance means a lot to me. This is my voice and who I am. So as the rabbi said, I want to start with the song Eli Eli, because the song Eli Eli, or God, is a song that actually, I think, brought me to music because of my mother, who, by the way, hi mom, watching it now from Israel, believe it or not, with my father. And I love this song so much that I arranged it for cello and piano and recorded it on my first CD, The Jewish Soul. And this is the beginning of the journey. It started, I was born in Kibbutz Israel, next to Afula, in the north of Israel. I don't know if many of you have been there, but the one good thing about Afula is the falafel. We have the best falafel in Israel. In Afula, yeah, you've been there. Falafel Golani, and that's it. So that's where I grew up, and here is Eli Eli. Thank you. So in the kibbutz, we were about 6 kids in the class, and you walk barefoot and you run around and you mainly play sports, and it's actually wonderful education and life for kids. Only when you're adult you realize that you work for nothing, but and that socialism doesn't really work. But as a kid, it's really sorry, it's really hi mom there. Yeah. But when we were 10 in 4th grade, we all had to start an instrument. That was part of the education. And I started the cello because of a girl who played cello and was a little older than me. She was 14, and I really didn't dare talking to her because in that age, 4 years is a lot. So I figured that if I'll pick up whatever she plays, I didn't even know what it is, this thing, she'll marry me. And that was my plan. That was really my plan. So when the music teacher asked, what do you want to play? I said, what she's playing. And he was shocked, but that's how I started the cello. We never talked to each other. And now we're good friends. She lives in London and makes fun of it and always say, one good thing happened because of her cello playing. She was not so good with the cello and quit when she was 16, but I got stuck with it. And I'm telling you this story because my first lesson, I will never forget it. I came in and my teacher told me to sit down. He gave me a cello. And in front of me was a music stand with a lot of black dots, I remember. And that was a Bach Suite No. 1 for cello solo. And he said, well, play. And luckily there were no iPhones to record that event. But that kept going every week. Every week we started the lesson for 4 years that I was with this teacher with the first suite by Bach. And later on, when I started to understand how to play it, and I struggled through it, every week I asked him, why did you do it? And he said, you will realize when you get older that this suite by Bach, that was written in 1720, by the way, this suite is like the story of creation, Bereshit. This is a story that actually, when you look at it, it's a simple story. 7 days, heaven, you have Adam and Eve, an apple, snake. I mean, you can tell it to a kid easily. But as you grow older, you'll see that you'll go back to this story and you'll find more and more meanings in it. And it's the same with the Bach suite. You can play it as a child, struggle through it. You can play it as a teenager, then as a young man. Then when you get married as a father, then maybe a grandfather, and so on. And you always look at the same story, same sort of simple piece differently. And he's right. I'm now in the phase of the father. And he's totally right, and I'm very thankful that I had that experience. So I would like to play for you now 3 movements from this suite. The prelude, the opening, the saraband, Spanish dance, slow dance, and then the jig, the English dance. And I just want to say that the cello that I'm playing on was made 25 years before this suite was written. So it was made in 1695. And of course, I don't own it. I get to play it, but I'll tell you more about the cello later. So here's the Bach Suite No. 1. Thank you. The next piece is a piece I'm sure you all know. It's a Kol Nidrei by Bruch, which you hear. This is a Reform synagogue, no? Yeah, so you can hear music. I know I'm not allowed to play it in my synagogue because it's a Jewish day school. It's modern Orthodox and all of that. But during the pandemic, I could play it in our synagogue because it was on Zoom. So apparently God allowed it that time. So I was very happy with his decision. And yeah, this piece also has been with me for years, since I started playing. The first time I could play it, I was asked to play it, and I'm always happy to play it, but also it's a great challenge as a cellist to play it and really to bring out the story of this piece and the sounds behind it. Before I play it, I want to just say a few words about this cello. This is a Grancino cello that was made in Italy. And I call it my pandemic cello because I actually received it during the pandemic. I got a call during the big hit of it when we were all stuck in our homes. I got a call from a friend of mine who is a dealer and in Boston, and he said that they have this amazing cello, but they have no business now. Nobody comes to the store, and if I would like to have it for a while and just play on it. Of course, being a dealer, he was planning the next move. He wanted me to fall in love with it. And I had nothing to do but to teach on Zoom and to perform on Zoom at home. So I agreed, and he brought the cello, and I fell in love with it. And the moment I played on it, I felt that I'm sort of bathing in an imaginary hot chocolate bath. And that's why the nickname of this cello is Shoko, because Shoko in Hebrew is hot chocolate. And of course, I couldn't buy it. This is a lot of money, not for a musician with 3 kids in a day school and mortgage. So I wrote an email to 2 people I thought could lend me the money for it with a good interest. And one said no, and the other one said, why lending you the money? We'll just buy it and you can play it. I said, sure, no problem. And they said there's only one condition, which is whenever we want you to play, you have to come and play in our house. I said yes to that too. And so that's how I got Shoko and started to play on this cello and record. And Noreen and I made many recordings already and videos with it, and I'm really thankful that there are people like this. I know that this is a fundraiser, so I know how important it is to raise money for good causes, and this is definitely a good cause, I think, because this cello could have been stuck in a cellar or museum, and it is now traveling the world and is shared with the world. So here's Shoko and I and Noreen playing the Kol Nidrei. The next piece, I have to confess, this is not planned. We were planning to play this piece anyway. We did not plan the war in Ukraine, but this piece was written by a Ukrainian composer. And so we will dedicate it now to this horrible thing that is happening there. And the composer is Joachim Stuchevsky. He was born in the Ukraine in 1881 to a Jewish family. He studied in the Cheder, lived in a shtetl, like many of our ancestors, I'm sure, even here. But he showed promise in music, and his father, luckily for us cellists, recognized that talent and found him a music teacher, and then sent him to Leipzig in Germany to study cello with Klengel, who was back then, the end of the 19th century, the most prominent cello teacher in the world. And Joachim Stuchevsky became a great cellist, young cellist in Europe, and a great composer. He was very well respected in Europe during the First World War, and after he moved to Vienna and was an amazing cellist, teacher, composer, and then came the Second World War. And he had to make a decision. Luckily, he fled Europe, and his family was divided between the US and Israel, what was then Palestine. And he arrived in Israel, in Palestine, back in the early 30s of last century. As a young man, you can imagine Stuchevsky, a very well-respected European gentleman with a suit, a cello, a suitcase, a cigar, arriving in Tel Aviv, in the desert, basically, all sand. And instead of being depressed about it, because he was really European in every sense of the word, he embraced it and became not just a Zionist, but also loved Israel and incorporated into his music a lot of the Mediterranean qualities, and started to teach cello, and created many generations of cellists, including yours truly, because my teacher, when he was a child, studied with Joachim Stuchevsky. And he wrote a lot of exercises, which we all hate, but he also wrote these jams of the pieces. And this piece in particular fits to today because it combines his roots in Ukraine, the Hasidic music. It's actually called Hasidic Suite, and the Western European education with Mediterranean flair to it. It has 4 movements, 4 short movements. Each movement represents a different Jewish community in Europe that disappeared in the Second World War. And the first one is a Basaramic song, is Bulgarian community. The second one is Jewish song, which is a Polish community. And you can hear, this is cello alone. You will hear me play really just a song that probably a Hasidic man sings walking next to the river back home from shul on a Friday night. The third one called Nuts and Wine. And like in any party that we go, you know, at the beginning there's nuts and wine, and you take some, and by the end of the evening you're maybe a little bit drunk, so the same melody sounds a little bit different. And then is a wedding song. And a wedding song, no matter of the times or your religion, it's a happy occasion, and occasion that becomes intoxicating. And you will hear what intoxication means in music, in this Hasidic wedding dance, which is the last movement. And really, as somebody who comes from Israel with so much conflict, I think it's good to just think about the people from Ukraine and what they're going through. And I will surely think about it now, playing this piece. Thank you. Just to finish our part of the show, Shoko and I would like to play for you something that maybe represent my religion. Of course, I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli, but I figured out through this journey, through my life, that my religion is actually music. I'm fanatic about it. I work hard on it. I do all the things that one has to do in order to keep being religious. And I do that with music. And in order to celebrate it, I would like to play a piece that is not by a Jewish composer. It's by Popper, who was a great cellist. And he was so bored himself by what the 19th century composers offered for cello. It was not as developed like Paganini or Chopin or Liszt for piano. So he started writing pieces for himself and performing them all over Europe. And this is one of them. This is a tarantella. And it's a dance in circles. So if you feel like it, you can stand up and dance. It's okay with me. Thank you so much, and I know I can say it in a Reform synagogue, but since there's great food in Vancouver, we are looking for a good place for sushi, kosher sushi. So if you know one, let us know afterwards.
Wasn't that just terrific? One more round of applause, please. Be seated for just a moment. I just have to say a few thank yous. I want to invite my colleagues, Rabbi Brown and Cantor Cohen, to join me on the bima. Thank you so much. That was just, it took us on a journey. Thank you so much. We so needed that. A thank you to our sponsors this evening, to all that helped to support this event. We raised money for the hospital. We raised money for the congregation. We're doing mitzvahs in the world. We're doing and giving tzedakah. And thank you for all helping us to do that. I want to thank those that made this evening possible on the technical side as well. And I had to write down names so I don't forget anybody. First, I want to thank the Parrott Center, our partners in this, who helped bring Amit to our community. We are so grateful for their contribution to the culture of our Vancouver Jewish community. It is rich and wonderful because of them. Thank you to Kathy Lowenstein and Nicole Harris, who put this evening on and put it all together. Thank you so much. And they had a whole team in our office behind them, and so I want to thank Laura and Elaine and Megan and Naama and everyone on our staff that helped make this possible. I really want to thank also Bernie, our maintenance person, who set things up and cleaned things up and did all that. Dimitar and Marina, who are outside, who keep us safe, along with our partners in the Jewish Federation, who help provide security for this evening. A huge thank you to our technical team, Marielle Solan, who's been heading that up this evening. Marielle, thank you, is taking pictures and running slides and the whole thing. To Andy, who came in to help us with sound. To Laura, who helped us with our cameras. Thank you so very, very much. I'll make sure I'm not missing anybody here. I think I got everyone just about. If I'm missing anybody, please tell me. And a thank you most particularly to my incredible colleagues who make being one of your Klei Kodesh such a joy and such a privilege. What a wonderful evening. What great news. Thank you so much to our honorees this evening, to Drs. Patty Daly, to Dr. Eric Grafstein, to our presenter, Dr. Rita Gustafson, to their whole families. Thank you. Thank you for the good news, but more importantly, thank you for the good works that you have done to keep us safe throughout this pandemic. We are here because of you. Our synagogue is open in time soon. Apparently, our masks will be able to come off if you choose to do so. You'll always be able to keep them on if you want. But our shul is open. Come to services. Come to our programs. And thank you for coming tonight. Shavua Tov. Thank you.